Hi, I am Anna Martin, and this is the Flex Podcast. We've just wrapped up my group coaching program, which is called Flex Big 3 at the moment. And after 4 weeks, we obviously talk about all the stuff that we've learned and what people have been able to implement in what they're doing. What one of my ladies said was that her biggest takeaway was that healthy eating is easier when it's uncomplicated. And that's something we work on a lot on the Flex Big 3 because there are so many different ways and diets and approaches that you'll find, especially commercial diets out there, that it can feel very overwhelming in terms of where the information is coming from. So, if I could sum up what I want for people in one sentence, finding that nutrition can be pretty uncomplicated is how I want their life to be. And for me, that was one of the best takeaways that anyone could have. There are so many ideas and diets and plans out there. Obviously things that you've heard of like keto, low carb, low fat, fasting, Weight Watchers, Slimming World, all of these things. And the reason that these things exist is because they are attempting to make it easier for people to work on their nutrition because it supplies rules. At some point, someone will have done one of these diets or one of these kind of ideas, and it would have made them feel better. It would have made them get their results that they want. They've got rules. So it feels very simple and straightforward because you're just being asked, do these things and you will get the results that you want. Follow these rules. And for some people, that can make life very simple because we're like, right, I'm just going to do this. And then I'm going to see what the results that I want. And people like rules because it makes you feel like you've got the information that you need and it makes you feel empowered because you are following something. And you can follow it to the letter or almost to the letter, and you're going to see some results. And especially this applies in terms of weight loss because all of these diets or plans or ideas, they give you, they put you into a calorie deficit. So you're eating slightly less than you need because you are restricting something. So low carb would obviously you'd be restricting carbs. So I don't know how many of you have tried ever to do that, but if you're starting to cut out, say, or most of your carbohydrate or most of your fat, it does make life seem a bit more simple because it's a very easy, not easy rule to follow in terms of it can be quite difficult, but in terms of the rule, eat less carbohydrate, done. So that's cutting down on a certain amount of calories that you're eating a day. Same with low fat. Fasting works very similarly for weight loss in terms of you're restricting the times that you can eat. So there's only so much that you can fit in your body in that short window of time. So they all work for weight loss in a similar way in terms of restriction. So then you add into that there's so much noise out there telling you what to do that feels so complicated that someone's supplying you with a really simple, straightforward rule. You think, yeah, I've got it. I'm going to crack on with this. I can do that because it is telling me exactly what to do. However, for me, I guess I'm like that anti everything person in terms of I think that if you have the information that you need and it's generally quite uncomplicated, which is what we do on Flex Big 3, and then you have someone, maybe me or maybe a group or even maybe a friend, helping to support you to put that into practice, then we know that it's the simple stuff that works. So for me, well, that's what I try to do with my clients in terms of we are implementing very, very simple pieces of information that actually take out a lot of the noise that you'll hear in terms of these diets and plans and stuff. And I'm not necessarily saying that there is anything wrong in terms of wanting to do one of those, because for some people it works really well. So I'm not for a minute cutting them in any way because it's totally up to the person what makes them feel good, and different things work for different people. But the things that we know make the difference to people in terms of their health, their fitness, nutrition is to eat more fruit and veg, more planty foods, to eat a relatively high amount of protein if you're able to. So obviously not for people with any kidney dysfunction, things like that, but for your average person, eating more protein, it's going to help you achieve the majority of your goals, make you more resistance, moving more, and making more time for resistance training. And I specifically put resistance training in there because the vast majority of women still don't hit the required amount of resistance training in order to reach their goals. One, in terms of health, in terms of things like bone density and so on. And secondly, in terms of body composition and strength and all of that kind of stuff, most women still don't do enough or don't do any. So that is something that we definitely focus on. It's a lifelong thing, resistance training, and it's especially helpful for people as they approach perimenopause, menopause, and all that kind of stuff. That's when people really start to put the effort in because they're seeing changes in their body that they didn't have before, and they want to try to keep what they had. So even if you're far from the age of going through perimenopause at this point, it's something, start looking at it now because it's going to make it a lot easier for you in the future if you've already got that habit built and you're already moving towards it. But these 4 things are the things we know will make a difference to virtually, well, to every single goal. Whether you're looking for health because you just want to feel better, obviously moving more is going to help with your energy levels, more fruit and veg, a full spectrum of micronutrients. Whether you're looking to lose weight, so we want to use all of these things to build a healthy diet and a healthy lifestyle in order for us to get into that calorie deficit. Whether you're looking to gain muscle, you still need to be resistance training and eating more protein. Obviously, in order to gain muscle, you need to be able to train quite hard. So you want to be in a decent spectrum of fruit and veg, so you're getting your micronutrients in, good sleep pattern, all of that kind of stuff. These are the really general things that everyone talks about. But the reason that we then look for extra rules and extra like special things that no one else knows about that maybe we should be doing is because for most of us, one, we're overwhelmed with information because everyone's telling us to do different things. And secondly, most people don't do them consistently enough or for long enough to see the results. So we can implement these basic things. So your protein, fruit and veg, resistance training and movement. And if you only do it for a week or 2 weeks, you're probably not going to see the results that you want because it takes time building muscle. And people use the phrase quite often, they want to be more toned. So what that really means in terms of what a Fit Pro is trying to do for you or your PT is trying to do for you is that you want to look a bit leaner, so have slightly less body fat, and you want to have a little bit more muscle so that you can see that muscle more. And that's what being toned looks like in terms of how a personal trainer would be trying to help you. That takes time. So decreasing our overall body weight can happen relatively quickly. And you all know this, like after Christmas, coming back from a holiday, we might have put weight on, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all of that is body fat. So when you finished that lovely time of eating over Christmas or on holiday, lots of drinking, that kind of stuff, you might have put a bit of body fat on, probably have, but you've also got a lot of stored carbohydrate that's stored in water. There's a lot more food in your digestive tract, so you weigh more. Then when you go back to eating better after the Christmas or the holiday, then a lot of those kind of transient things come off very quickly. So there's less food in your digestive tract. Especially if you do something like low carb, or even if you just go back to your normal carbohydrate intake, you'll find that you have less stored carbohydrate in your body. So then you're weighing less. But that doesn't mean that all of the weight you've lost is body fat. So that's why people see the high percentage of change on the scale in like the first week or so of doing something, which can be highly motivating. So don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that being a motivating factor. But it's just keeping in mind that that isn't actually body fat that we're losing. And actually that takes a lot longer to achieve because we have to be in a deficit consistently and for a long period of time, especially for people who want to like build a bit of muscle. It takes ages. It can happen a lot faster when we first start doing resistance training. But if you've been training a little while, you will know as well as I do that it takes time. Like I've been lifting weights for years and years and years. The amount of muscle I've put on that time is a relatively low proportion compared to what you would think. So we do have to work consistently for time to see the results that we want, especially if we want to maintain them, because it isn't that fast results are necessarily bad results. That's not it at all. But we have to, for a lot of people, it's changing our lifestyle and how we view things in terms of maybe we think, oh, I'm just going to eat really well for 4 weeks and then I'm going to go back to what I did before. If you go back to what you did before, you're going to be in the same position that you were before, no doubt, in terms of body composition and stuff like that. So we do changing our habits and building a new healthy lifestyle does take a lot of time. And that's something we have to prepare ourselves for when we're doing something. Yes, you can shift things like weight and so on in terms of if you're like a lot of people train for like a holiday or for a wedding or like a definite date. So we can do things in a short period of time to get to that point that we want. But inevitably, what most of us want, especially as we age, is a healthy lifestyle. And that takes time because you do have to keep rinsing and repeating the same stuff. Sometimes you make mistakes or um, you think, oh, I'll just go back to what I did before. And actually, then we have to learn, no, that doesn't work. And it is like about making small incremental changes over time to get us where we want to be, especially in terms of how we look at ourselves and what we think we can fit into our life. And for a lot of people, because of the time that it takes, it can feel like we're looking for a secret or something that other people know that we don't. And that can be another reason why people might look for kind of like a diet or a diet plan or something along those lines, because it can feel, because the change is slow and because it does fluctuate, especially for women, if you're looking at scale weight all the time, fluctuates through our cycle. So it can feel like other people are getting these results. They must know something that I don't. And that, to be honest, probably isn't the case. You pretty much, most people know what they need to do to feel healthier and to start achieving their goals. And it's more that we're not implementing it consistently and for a long enough period of time. And that perhaps we don't have that self-awareness of what we are actually doing. So I'm going to give you a bit of an example for me, but I'm going to use social media as my example because it's something I've been talking about a lot recently in terms of work. So I don't love social media. I love my job and I love helping people, but I don't love turning up on social media all the time. And because I don't love it, I look for reasons not to post. Like I want the outcome. I want people to come to me and I want to be able to help people. I want people to come to my classes or join the big three or flex or whatever. I want to do those things and I enjoy them, but I don't particularly want to do what it takes to reach completely different people and to get them in because I don't like posting on social media and I don't want to show up for it. I tell myself I don't have the time to fit it in, despite the fact that I had plenty of time last week to go to the gym and to train and to walk and to play the drums and do my geeky puzzle and all the stuff that I really enjoy doing. Found time for all of that, but I didn't find time to post on social media. And that's me just being completely honest and open. Um, you think there are times when I think, well, they probably know more about what to post on social media than I do because it's taken me a really long time to think of the things that I want to put up. And I feel a bit overwhelmed with all of the things and all the different ways that I help people. And now I don't really know what to post because it's quite tricky to like narrow it down. And that's not dissimilar to this information overload, right? That we get if we're looking for um, ways to feel more healthy. And I say things to myself like, it's all right for them because they're younger than me. So they don't mind showing up on social media. They're younger than me, so they don't mind. I'm 42. I don't really want to post on social media. Again, not dissimilar to someone who's trying to change their lifestyle. Oh, it's all right for Anna. She's a PT and she goes to the gym for work. So it's all right for her. Um, it's easier for her. And it is now easier for me, but it wasn't when I first started. And it has taken a long time to get consistent with it. Again, back to social media, I might post for a bit, but I don't see immediate results. So then I stop. I don't post as much or as consistently as the people who are really active on their social media and doing really well with it. So probably I don't well, I don't deserve the results that they get because I'm not doing it as consistently and I'm not putting as much time into it as they do. And sometimes I over-report on how well I've done. So let's say I manage to post on social media for a month. I saw some results, but I didn't see quite what I want. So I'm like, well, I've done it for a whole month. I've done really well for a whole month, but I haven't got exactly what I wanted. So now my motivation is dropping a little bit and my consistency dips. And actually, when you look at all of those things that I'm saying about myself in terms of my social media, that can be quite a lot of the things that come up for people in terms of, and when they're looking at their health and wellness and their fitness and diet. And actually, it's their implementation and consistency and the ability to self assess that makes the most difference. And you'll see a lot. People will try something for a couple of weeks. They might underreport the food that they're eating. So I've seen this a lot with people when they really haven't been away from a commercial diet for a while and they're trying to just generally eat healthy. They can underreport what they're actually eating. So they're eating these really super low calorie meals, but then because they're so hungry, then their snacks are increasing. Their reliance on things like drinks with calories in are increasing. They are potentially not quite sure about how much of something they're eating. So they think it's a portion, but it's not actually a portion. Like, I don't know if you've ever weighed your cereal to look at what a portion of cereal is when you look at it on the box. It's miserable when you actually weigh that and you see it. And it's not just for me, I don't really like cereal, but for me, it's pasta. When you look at what a bowl of pasta looks like when you've weighed it, and that is the portion that's on the size of the packet, is actually quite a lot less than I would out of choice pour in because I love pasta. So that, that's underreporting in itself if we're not really sure how much we're actually eating. And we can over-report things like the protein that we eat. So we think, yeah, I'm eating loads, but actually one egg is not loads when you look at the protein intake on that. People are like, I ate loads of prawns, but you shared a packet with someone. And then when you actually look at that and how much protein is there, don't get me wrong, that's great that you're doing that. But actually over the day, you're therefore unable to hit your protein intake because you think you're eating more than you are. And it can happen with workouts as well. Like people, when they first start thinking, oh, I've done loads of exercise, but that is loads of exercise where you are now. And I'm not knocking it at all because it's brilliant. But when you then compare it to how much time someone else has put into how long they've spent training or working out, and how much that consistency over time has helped them doing training, doing a couple of workouts a week for 4 weeks doesn't stack up to someone having done that for 7 years, for example. So we have to be a little bit realistic about where we are at with stuff, and that can really help us in terms of getting that picture. And that is one of the things that's one of the main things I think that we've taken away with this is being able to self-assess where we are, recognize our own lifestyle and the obstacles that we have, because they're all very different. And that for me is one of the key things, is that we need to uncomplicate what it is that we're doing so that we can then fit it into our own lifestyle. So someone who's got kids and works a full-time job is not gonna potentially, I'm not saying you're definitely not, but I train 5 days a week at the gym. I don't have kids and I work in a gym. So therefore it makes it a lot easier for me to do that because I'm there already and I don't have to worry about childcare and I don't have to get it in. So what I do isn't going to work for one of my clients who's got a couple of kids and a full-time job. Like, it isn't going to work. So then we need to look. That's why it's important for me to give information on what it is possible for that person to fit in, like realistically possible and not horrendously impossible. So it feels really stressful. So we uncomplicate what it is that we're trying to do so that we can fit it into our own lifestyle. And actually, in terms of food choices and stuff, if I give you a plan and tell you to follow these really strict rules, you will probably do it. You will probably do it because you want the outcome. But whether you or not you can do that consistently going forward around all of the other stuff you've got going on in your life and all your personal preferences in terms of your diet, that is like, I mean, for me, like, I could follow a diet plan for 4 weeks. I'd probably follow it for 8 weeks. I don't want to follow it after because I really like food and I really like eating. And I'm probably not really going to love the food on this diet plan. It's going to be absolutely fine. But I have put I like Mexican food. It's like my favorite. I like Mediterranean food. Someone just gives me chicken, broccoli, and rice in a meal plan, or even even if it was exactly the same, but of Mexican-y version, like a Mexican burrito bowl or something. Over time, that's going to feel boring to me. So without the information that I need to get to keep be able to keep going with eating well and to have that flexibility to work around my life, it's going to feel more complicated as time goes on, because I'm only going to feel that I can achieve my goals if I go back to that food plan. Actually, when you strip it back, most diets and any type of kind of like everything regarding nutrition comes back to the same thing, and it's eating decent amount of fruit and veg, eating relatively high protein, and using our calorie intake to affect the goals that we want. So maybe eating a bit less if we want to lose some body fat, eating a bit more if we want to put some weight on and get a bit more muscle, that kind of stuff. So it's actually quite simple in terms of what we need to do, but it's how we implement it and how we get there that makes it feel more complicated than it is. And that is basically what I hope and what I think we've achieved on the big three, is to be able to strip it back a bit and say, actually, if you look at these four things in terms of your life, are you starting to implement them, and are you doing them consistently? Yes, they are. And if because they've done it themselves around their own lifestyle, it is easier for them in the long term. It might have been less strict from me in terms of, I don't need you to do this exact rule. I need you to work it out for yourself. And this is how I'm going to help you do that. But because they've worked it out for themselves and they know how to do it in terms of their own cooking ability, in terms of their lifestyle, their timetable, their goals, all of that kind of stuff, it's completely possible for them to do it and to be consistent with it over time, and hopefully not to need me to do it in the future. I love it when people want to come back and do another big three, and I think it's going to be called the big four next time, actually. But I love that people want to come back to do it, but they come back to get that extra bit of energy, or to learn something else a little extra, or to implement a new habit that they want to get into that they need a bit of help with. It isn't because they don't know what to do. It's about having that group there and that accountability, and perhaps the extra support and the extra tailored information that they need, rather than because they can't do it on their own. And that for me is really key. But again, like I always just start to ramble off with this stuff. But yes, the basic message for me, every time, uncomplicated is better. And we can look at ways to do like a massive overhaul of stuff if we want to, but actually start implementing those basics and do them consistently. And then later on, you can start worrying about things like supplements or exact balances of different things. But if we're not doing the basics, we don't really have that stable platform to start building on. And actually, there aren't as many secrets or quick fixes or anything that we as we think there are. It is literally get the basics in, rinse and repeat them, start making little adjustments as you go. But first and foremost, get started, and you can make little changes later on. But the vast majority of the benefits that you'll feel and the movement towards your goals that you'll get will come from rinsing and repeating those really, really uncomplicated basics over and over again, even in terms of energy levels, sleep patterns, all that kind of stuff. Let's get the basics in, get them nailed, and get you feeling good, moving better, and finding the time to fit in the stuff that you can around the lifestyle that you have. Okay, I'm going to stop talking because, as ever, I've rambled, but I hope that's been helpful. I do think I've talked for 25 minutes again. I thought this was going to be 15 minutes, but here we are with all the chat. But thank you for listening and for joining me on this. And I hope I will see you on the next podcast. If you want more information on the big three or the big four, as I think I'm going to call it next time, then you know where I am, just on annamartinfitness.co.uk. And just hit me up and I will let you know if I've got something coming up. We're starting again on the 10th of March for the next one. But if you listen to this later, it will no doubt be running under the same name or slightly similar. Okay. See you soon.